Welcome to the Scale Smart podcast. I'm your host, Jacob, the CEO and founder of NetScale Growth. Today, I have the pleasure of being with Bentley Wilson, the CEO of Thrivin. Bentley, thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Hey, Jacob. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
So, Bentley, start us off. Who is Bentley and what does Thrivin do?
Well, I guess simply, I'm an impact CEO where I focus on big impact problems in the world and creating sustainable and scalable solutions.
Okay, and what does Thrivin do? What do they specialize in?
Thrivin is an AI-powered upskilling, career pathing, and recruitment SaaS platform. We are focused on solving some of the biggest workforce problems that the world has today.
Okay, and what led to the founding, the creation of Thrivin? What did you see in the market that was going on where you thought, right, this is where we need to go?
So I started a impact investment company with the former head of philanthropy for Merrill Lynch. And we started identifying that one of the biggest problems in the world was really poverty, and that poverty was kind of the foundation problem for most other social problems of the world. It's what causes health medical problems. It's what causes the inability to educate your children, the inability to not have enough food, and so on. So we decided we would focus on what are some of the biggest solutions for poverty. And in the world, we saw that there are billions of people that are suffering for various social problems, but they don't have meaningful or dependable work. And so we identified companies that were creating scalable solutions that could help people get employed either informally or formally and be able to take care of their families and take care of all of these issues. While we were doing that, we uncovered in about 2010 this problem called the education to employment gap. And what it turns out that the problem was there is that education was not giving people the skills to be able to get meaningfully employed, right? That went big in 2012 with McKinsey making their big announcement. We'd already been tracking it in 2010 and been investing in companies that were solving that problem. Then along came an even bigger problem as the companies we were investing in started to place people in the workforce. The companies were saying, hey, these people are better prepared for work than our current employees. So we identified what was called the workforce skills gap, or the early stages of recognition of that. So today, 70% of the entire workforce has a skills gap, and it's projected that by 2030, 90% of the world's workforce will have a skills gap. That is nearly 4 billion people. So that's going to cause massive problems for companies, and it already is. But typically what happens with these kinds of problems is they act as sleeping giants. People just kind of ignore them until they become, too big of a problem to ignore, or they're basically destroying the company or its workforce. And that's kind of what happens with a lot of companies. But today, about 10% of the total companies in the world, which is literally hundreds of millions, are starting to recognize that they better do something around this area. But along came COVID, and COVID changed things even more. That brought attention to what is called the talent gap. The northern hemisphere of the world is suffering from a talent gap because they've not been producing babies at the prescribed 2.1% to be able to replace themselves. And so what has happened since the baby boomers have left or are leaving the workforce at an advanced pace, it has left a big, big gap in the workforce and continues to leave a gap, so that by the end of this next year, we're expecting there to be 85 million open roles in the world. 85. And then finally, because all those people left and have been leaving at rapid pace, it leaves what is called the leadership gap. And it's a good thing, frankly, that all those old leaders left, because we don't want to be led the way that they led us anyway. The new generation of workforce is a human-centric leadership group which is your Gen Zs and your millennials and so on. They want to be led or lead their lives differently. In fact, we believe in what we call a life-work balance, not a work-life balance, if that gives you any indication of the change in direction things are going.
And obviously, starting up a company, scaling up a company, there's going to become challenges, there's going to become hurdles. What would you say, Bentley, are some of the biggest hurdles you've had to jump over as an impact CEO, as you say, that have really shaped your business into being what it is today?
Well, first of all those problems that I just described are a lot of problems to solve. But we saw a way to be able to incorporate them into one. And so one is, target yourself on a single problem. And that's what we had to do. We had to focus in on one big problem and then work on scaling into the others. So we chose upskilling because it was the biggest and broadest. It basically started in education, wherever education finishes off, all the way into someone's full career. The other thing that has been a challenge is that I'm not a technology guy. I'm a former international investment professional, multi-time entrepreneur, but I have never started a technology company. So one of the challenges was finding a technologist that had the same vision or shared the same vision that we saw and could learn how to incorporate the vision of solutions that we had been investing in into a one-stop shop platform that could create the solution. And that probably has been our biggest challenge to date, is doing that. I think at this point.
And how did you find the transition going from the investor type entrepreneur to completely transitioning over to technology? What did you find in yourself, not in the business, but what did you find in yourself, Bentley, that was the biggest thing to kind of adapt to?
Well, first of all, there was a lot of things I didn't know, right? So I was totally in a different category, and I really had to spend time getting up to speed with the latest thought and processes in technology. And thank goodness we had a lot of support there from that standpoint. But so it wasn't a lot of fun. In fact, if I was to do it again, I would say, don't do it. Don't go there. It's pretty tough. But our passion around helping the world solve this problem was so great, we just have been pushing ourselves through it. And we're not all the way through it by any means. We have a long ways to go still. In fact, this will probably be a lifetime endeavor for us. In fact, our goal, we have a big mission to basically grow 1 billion careers during the life of Thrivin. It's got to be $1 billion company to be able to achieve that. I was noticing the other day that LinkedIn, over 20 years, hit their billion member mark. Well, we've got to be able to go the distance to be able to achieve that. We think we could probably achieve it faster because of the demand that people have to be able to grow in their careers, but that's one of our big challenges.
And how are you looking to overcome that?
Well, it's bringing a lot of smart people in, but also using AI. AI has the ability to scale in this category so much faster than we ever thought we could before, because we can evaluate people's skills, we can create a pathway for them, and we can actually have them get those skills or acquire those skills faster, much faster than we ever thought before, because of the way that they are learning on a daily, weekly basis and incorporating it into their lives. So no longer is it learn, but it's learn, do, apply, right? You are learning little bits of pieces and applying it and then scaling from there. Life is going to be 15 minutes of learning and applying and growing.
And you mentioned AI. I don't think there's one podcast that I do where that word does not get mentioned. So what are you doing with Thrivin to incorporate AI, and how can you see it evolving over time?
Well, I think right now, the buzzword has been AI, but very quickly, AI will not be what people are talking about. People will be talking about what the results of AI are in their platforms or in their solutions or in their companies. They won't say we're AI powered anymore. In fact, we'll probably start dropping that after the end of this year. AI will be continually growing and magnifying itself inside of every solution I can think of. There is not a place that you can't really incorporate AI and have it improve the functionality of how the technology is working. Remember, the biggest part about creating a solution is around creating a solution that a customer benefits from and understanding how they benefit and why they benefit, and then how to continue to keep improving that so that they don't want to go anywhere else, right? They want to just stay with you because they have such a dependable, scalable solution. That's how AI is going to be used, and I think where it's going, from the standpoint of where it is today.
And what do you think is happening with the tech industry right now, especially within SaaS as well? Because I hear a lot of people saying that SaaS is dying. They don't know what the future looks like for SaaS. What do you say to the people who don't see the longevity within the SaaS business model?
Well, as again, I'm not the expert, but what I understand and what I believe is that SaaS per se is not going to go away, but the way that SaaS was built from the past and the way and the speed with which it's created and used is going to change. That's one of the things that AI definitely does for us today. You probably won't need the same level of developers that we needed to get started. In fact, if you know the vision, you can talk to the AI and have it build that vision for you and start operating. Right? So you can do things very differently. In fact, we had a goal of trying to build a development team that was not in the developed world, that was in the developing world. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but I'm talking to you from Nairobi, Kenya. And so much of the work that we do is spread around the world. You have a decentralized workforce within our company where we've got people in the US and the UK, in Kenya and India and so on, that are delivering what Thrivin is producing, and we're working in about 70 different countries with different types of solutions. So it is a very unique time, but why would SaaS ever go away? It's going to be there. You're just going to have to envision and build it differently. That's the name of the game, is being agile and changing. The entrepreneur's opportunity to play in SaaS is not going to go away. It's just whether or not their vision of how to use the new tech is going to be up to the level it needs to be. And I would just encourage everyone to just keep learning, growing, and utilizing the new tech as it comes out.
And what would you say is one of the biggest objections you get from companies you're looking at and who don't really understand the value which you're presenting to them?
So companies, like I was talking about, there's only about 10% that are starting to see the vision for this, is that companies really don't want to spend a lot of money on their employees. They already feel like they are paying them to do the work that they have to in order to get them to do the work. But to have to upskill them or reskill them or career path them, they'd rather spend a whole bunch of money to go out and recruit new people, which they're not there anymore. So just a side note, it's easier and less expensive to upskill your own people than it is to find someone that has the skills already. You're going to pay about 250% of what you would have otherwise to go out and find that person. So you better get upskilling and creating that. But that's one of the biggest challenges, that vision, that mind shift hasn't quite happened with all the companies in the world, but it will. And a lot of it will probably happen over the next 5 years. And that's just perfect for us. We can create $1 billion company in the next couple of years and be right ready for whatever the workforce is ready to deliver to us.
Amazing. Now that goes on to the next question. You just mentioned $1 billion company. For the next 12 months, Bentley, what are some of the goals you've got for the company?
So we have a goal, several different goals, because we have several big projects that we're working on. First of all, we want to deliver $1 million worth of upskilling in the corporate sector. That's going to equate into about 1,000 people upskilled in their roles. In the area of outsourcing, which is the recruitment area that we're focusing on, we'd like to bring 1,000 people into the outsourcing area this year and add another $1 million on top of that, and that will create of about $4 million between those areas, and that is kind of our next goal. So you can tell we're kind of still at early stage, but we believe that this year will be our first breakout year to go where we want to go on this path to be $1 billion unicorn.
And if people wanted to reach out Bentley, find out some more information, where's the best place for them to do that?
Just have them go to getthrivin.com. You can get it from anywhere in the world.
Amazing. Well, Bentley, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you coming on, sharing your expertise and what you know about SaaS and AI.
Hey, thanks, Jacob. Great to be with you, and best wishes with your podcast.
Thank you so much. If you enjoyed the podcast today with Bentley, make sure to leave it a like and a share. Bentley, thank you again for coming on. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now.